Here we go with part 2. Should be watching this, hopefully not right at the same time as you watch part 1, unless you're super duper trying to get ahead, but probably on the next night instead. We're going to talk about how to put equations into slope-intercept form when they don't start out that way. Now this is very much like rearranging equations into standard form, except that we're now rearranging them into slope-intercept form. Y equals mx plus b. And so we don't want y and x on the same side. We want them on opposite sides of the equal sign now. And notice that y doesn't have any coefficient in front of it. So we're going to, use the usual inverse operations to do that. And for note-taking today, you can either continue on the bottom of page 70. My guess, though, is that that's getting pretty full, and you are going to need to do at least one graph today. So probably continuing on the graph paper that you were using for the rest of your 5-5 notes is your best bet. Let's go. So here's the steps. Jot them down. Use inverse operations to get x and y on opposite sides. Okay, so that they're not on the same side anymore. And we want the constant to be with the x. Get the constant on the same side as x. Okay. Then divide by y's coefficient, if it has one. And last, split apart the common denominator and simplify each fraction. You could also just divide each term by the y coefficient, or divide every term by y's coefficient. Those are your options. Let's do this one together, and then we'll try a couple more where you work a little bit more independently. So we have x and y on the same side. This is in standard form right now. And we're going to take it from standard form into slope-intercept form. So we're going to subtract 7x's from both sides. Remember how I said we always want the x term first? Here's where you're going to see why you want it first. So we're going to put it first. Negative 7x, the 8 is positive, so plus 8. That's step 1 and 2, or just 1, sorry. We got inverse operations to get x and y on opposite sides. The 8 is already with the x's. And now we're going to divide every term by y's coefficient. So we're going to divide everything by 4. And then if we can simplify, simplify. Right. Clearly that's going to be 1y, so just write y. Negative 7/4, nothing we can do with that. Usually we write it as its own fraction, and then x goes next to it, just like you've seen on the other problems. And then plus 8/4 is 2. This is your answer. Y equals negative 7/4 x plus 2. Then, do you see how you can graph this? We know the y-intercept, it's 2. We can count the slope, right? Rise negative 7, right 4, done. Let's try a couple more. If you're feeling good, you're going to try this one on your own. If you're feeling not quite so good, you're going to do it with me. So pause it if you need to. Otherwise, here we go. Now this one, this one's nice. X and y are already on opposite sides. The constant's already with the x's, so all we have to do is divide every term by y's coefficient. And we get y equals 3/7 x plus 2. That's it. That's the answer. You could graph it from there. These go fast, so we're going to do a couple of them. Okay? And we'll do more even in class. Don't worry. You need a lot of practice at this. So x and y are on opposite sides. That 8 is in the wrong place. So let's take 8 away. It's positive. So take 8 away from each side. And that gets rid of this. Go ahead and pause it if you want to try it on your own. X minus 8 equals, remember we took the 8 away. Okay, so now I have negative 12y left over. Zip zap if that's an easier way for you to see that. And then we're going to divide by y's coefficient. which is negative 12. And we divide everything by negative 12. And now we've got some kind of fixing to do here. Okay. So first of all, we like to write the slope as a fraction in front of x, and there's no coefficient in front of x, so that means there's a 1 hiding there. So we would say really this is negative 1/12. The negative can be upstairs or downstairs or right smack in the middle, just one of them though, x. And then minus, but there's also a negative down here, so let's zip zap that. There's a lot of little things to recognize, I know that, right? And we get plus 8/12. Right? Negative over negative is positive. And that's pretty good, but 8/12 actually isn't reduced, so we're going to go one step further, and we get negative 1/12 plus, dividing both by 4, we get 2/3. Oops, I left the x off there. Negative 1/12 x plus 2/3 equals y. And that would be my final answer. Whew. That was one that looked easy, but turned out to be pretty hard. You never know. All right, that was the last one of those. So I'm just going to do one of these here for you where I rearrange and then graph it. So we have 2y plus 3x equals 6. We're going to rearrange into slope-intercept form so we can then graph using slope-intercept form. Now this one would be pretty easy to graph using the intercepts too, but we're not going to do it that way, right? We could, but we're not going to. Instead, we're going to take 3 x's away from each side, and we're going to rewrite it as negative 3x plus 6. And then we're going to divide everything by 2. And we're going to write it one more time. And we get y equals negative 3/2 x plus 3. And now we can graph it. Our y-intercept is 3. Our slope is negative 3/2. So I'm going to go down 3, 1, 2, 3, and then right 2, 1, 2, and make my other point. And then I'm going to draw my line. And I should get a ruler out, but I'm kind of rushing here. So I'm just going to draw it by hand. You should use a straight edge. Do as I say, not do as I do. And that's it. So you get it into slope-intercept form, and then you graph it the same way we did all of our graphing from the beginning of 5-5. It's such a fast, easy way to graph. We'll do more of those in class, though, I promise. I know I'm only doing one here, kind of shorten things up a little, because I want to do one word problem before I sign off. A closet organizer charges $100 initial consultation fee plus $30 per hour. The cost as a function of the number of hours hours worked is graphed below. So they show you the graph here. Okay. So you should already be thinking, oh look, I can see the y-intercept. It's right here. It's 100. Right. And they told me she charges $30 per hour. That's the rate. Rate is just another way of talking about slope. And I bet if I calculate out the slope, right, I'm going to find that it's 30. 250 minus 100 is 150. 5 minus 0 is 5. 150 over 5 is 30. Okay. And so now we can look at what the question actually is here, which is, hold on, let's kind of cover some of this up here. All right. The first part is write an equation that represents the cost as a function of the number of hours. Okay, so we're looking for y equals something x plus something, because we're going to do it in slope-intercept form. And we know what we have to add on. That's the 100 that we started with, right? And we know that the cost is $30 per hour. And so look what it translates into. Y equals 30h, or x, right, plus 100. 30 is the slope, 100 is the y-intercept. That's really all they're asking for right here. Okay? And you can use x or h, it doesn't matter. You could write f of h also, that would still be the same thing. Okay, so the slope is the rate, right? And then they're also asking us here, hold on, how fast did you read that? Okay. Identify the slope and the y-intercept and describe their meanings. Well, we said that the y-intercept was 100. That's how much they charge for 0 hours. That's the initial fee. And the slope was 30, right? That tells us the cost per hour. That's the slope's always going to tell you the rate of change, right? And we knew that on the x-axis were hours and on the y-axis were dollars, so dollars per hour. Find the cost if the organizer works 12 hours. We're just going to plug that 12 in for the h or the x, whichever variable you used, and number crunch. So when we plug in 12, right, we get y equals 30 times 12, which is going to be 360 plus $100. And so that's 360 plus 100 makes 460. So for 12 hours, right, costs $460 for 12 hours. We're going to do another one of these, maybe even two of these tomorrow when you come to class, because once again, these are the big ideas that that you need to walk away with is what does slope actually mean? What does the y-intercept actually mean? But for today, we're done.